This guide has been inspected and approved by Luminous.
Hey guys, this is Sven, and welcome to the official Dota Cinema Guide to Sven. If you aren't familiar with this hero, you may want to watch the introduction we did for him at the corresponding link. Sven is a strength initiation hero who can technically carry but is generally looked at as a solid support. Whatever you play him as, just remember that according to his lore, he has the biggest testicles of anyone in Dota 2. Skill build. Maxing Stormhammer is about the only generic thing about Sven's skill build. This is one of the best stuns in the game because it cannot be dodged like many other spells, therefore making it a guaranteed disable. Past the obvious, getting one level of Warcry at level 2 and then stats at 4 is very common. The reason for this is stats will allow you to spam your spells a bit more, and really getting one level of Warcry is enough for the early game since the bonus armor isn't nearly as important as extra HP. As with most heroes, skill your ultimate at 6, 11, and 16. When you get to level 8, you have some decisions to make. You could level Warcry from 8 to 10, but we're going to say that HP trumps the armor, so go ahead and get stats at those levels. Because of that, you'll finish leveling Warcry at levels 12, 13, and 14. So the real question is, do you even skill Great Cleave? If you're playing Sven as a hard carry, then you probably want to skill this a lot earlier. But since this guide is focusing on him more as a support, we'll say skilling it depends on the game. For our purposes, leveling it from 17 to 20 would be a decent idea, since pushing lanes at that stage of the game is considered a good thing. If you see no need for this, then go ahead and opt for stats. That wouldn't be a bad choice either. Item build. Starting items, much like any support, would include both health and mana regeneration of your choosing, in combination with the courier or wards, of course. If you have any remaining gold left over, then some iron branches would be a good idea in order to complete a magic wand in the future. For boots, get either power treads or arcane boots. This is all dependent on what your team needs. If you know that mana will be covered, then getting power treads could really help you become a more confident initiator. Early game and Urn of Shadows is an excellent choice since it gives you good stats as well as some decent mana regeneration. And the fact that you should be initiating fights in the early game means getting some charges on that bad boy could really come in handy. A Drum of Endurance is also an excellent choice for Sven since it gives really good stats. The reason stats are so important on somebody like Sven is because, as many supports know, his role can sometimes cost him quite a bit in levels. This is where the nice builds of both the Urn and Drum really shine. Now I must make one note here. The reason Sven is picked up as a support is because he can really turn into a hybrid type hero. With a little farm he can actually turn into a decent side carry, even if originally playing as support. That's why it's optimal he don't be the dedicated ward bitch, although helping from time to time would be expected. In the mid game, getting a Blink Dagger would be huge for initiation purposes. Also, a BKB in most cases is terrific, as it'll let you tank in a team fight. Also, in some situations, a Force Staff can really be handy for both initiation and getaway sequences. But in the late game, make no mistake. If Sven gets some juicy items, he can hit like an absolute beast. For late game, a Heart would be a decent choice, but an Assault Cuirass really shines, because it not only helps you tank, but really lets you show off your ultimate with the help of the extra attack speed and negative armor. Aside from that, a Daedalus can be a very good item if you're feeling lucky with crits. In pubs, getting that in addition to a Mask of Madness can really make for some fun times, although we don't officially recommend the latter item. Gameplay. The great thing about Sven is you can play him in a multitude of ways. He can shine as a dual or tri-lane support, as well as a very effective roamer. If roaming, then all I can say is carry a smoke, since it will provide you easy opportunities to be unseen on the minimap. With your Stormhammer being an amazing stun, even at level 1, try and use it for an early first blood. Obviously you'll need something else to couple it with, but you can't ask for a much better disable to start a gank off. Try and use it a little judiciously in the early game because of your mana issues. But remember that it'll stun multiple targets if they're close, so try and wait for the right time to strike. Warcry can be used as both an initiation and getaway. Get used to the feel of the 700 radius because when your teammate really needs that 12% movement speed buff, it would really be god-awful if you misjudged the AoE. In teamfights, if you have a Blink Dagger, then your role is to be the initiator. If you don't have a Blink yet, then you may have to rely on someone else, unless you feel the 600 range for your stun will be sufficient. But if the opposing team initiates first, then you need to act as the counter initiator. Stunning multiple people in teamfights should be really easy, and of course using your Warcry in an offensive manner can really help turn the tide of battle. And although we don't put a lot of faith into Great Cleave, If you are farmed enough, it can really do some serious damage to enemies that are bunched up, so just keep that in mind. As far as your ultimate God Strength, it really doesn't hold the same weight it used to when Sven was played as only a carry. A lot of players would actually try and use God Strength while in fog because the opposing team's reaction to seeing it would be, okay, time to run. But now it's kind of underestimated, I'm not sure why. With barely any farm, Sven can still really hurt. So use their ignorance to your advantage and pound their faces in. Friends and foes. Friends of our big testicled friend are actually quite open since he's such a great laning partner. Heroes that can provide an additional disable to your own are usually looked at in high regard, since you can just stun and then right click away. Mirana and her arrow are a great example of this, along with Shadow Shaman and Lina. One special mention does go to Crystal Maiden though, because not only does she have an immobilize and slow, but also because she can provide some much needed mana regeneration to a hero that desperately needs it. Foes of Sven would really encompass everyone who can prevent him from being effective. If you're relying on your stun and Warcry, then that would include Mana Burn and Mana Steal that Anti-Mage and Lion have available to them. If your greatest strength is in right-clicking with help from your ultimate, then disables from Bane, Rasta, and the item Heaven's Halberd will be really tough to go against. One final note, although a Diffusal Blade is still decent for kiting Sven, fortunately for him it doesn't purge off his ultimate anymore. So feel safe in that regard, Sven. Feel safe. Thanks for watching, guys, and please remember to subscribe to our YouTube. Also, a special shout out goes to Flawless and Luminous for their help in writing this guide. You can check them out at their respective YouTube channels, which are linked in the video description. Also, be sure to check out our website at dotacinema.com. My name is Sven, and I still love you.